Go live. I'm trying to go live on Instagram. It won't let me. So I think we're live. We're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to an Artful Life, curious conversations about the ways humans make and use art. And today we have the fantastic Danila Korogodsky. I hope I pronounced it correctly. And of course, my co host, Melissa Hefferlin. And we're very excited to talk about theater, about staging, about set design, and many topics more than that. And Melissa, why don't you take it away and introduce our guest today?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. In 1990, I met Danila in California. I was a young art student aspiring to study realism in the former Soviet Union, and he had all kinds of opinions about where I should go, which was fun. But I was enchanted from the beginning and remain so 30 some years later. The way he thinks about theater and the way he thinks about human stories and the way they come out visually on the other end on the stage is a wonderful thing that's been a great benefit to my life. I've been to many of his productions in Russia over the 30 years that we've been friends. And unfortunately, I have not been to some of his productions in the US at the Spoleto Festival, at the Lyric Opera of Chicago, also in Berlin, in Bern, and over 100 productions around the former Soviet Union. So set design, costume design, artistic direction, and a fine artist and now a playwright. Danila, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Danila, how did you find yourself in theater to begin with?
Oh my God. I'm afraid. Well, it's a very simplistic story. I'm just a product of a theatrical family. So, my father was a stage director, and my mom was writing for theater, playwright. So, and at some point, my parents discovered that they can make me quiet by giving me a stack of paper, because they would need to go to rehearsals and they didn't have any babysitters, or something like that. So they would give me paper and colored pencils, and then when they would come back from the rehearsal, they would discover that the room is littered with all kinds of exuberant doodles, and their child is sleeping in the middle of this pile of paper. So, I was born into a theatrical family, and they discovered that I was interested in drawing, and so it somehow sort of. I'm kind of shy to say, but I never really fought for my profession, more or less. It just sort of fell into my lap.
But it fell not just into your lap, but on fertile ground, obviously, or else you wouldn't be where you are.
I'm just not sure because your description of my achievements, I'm not sure if I really deserve this glamorous description. But nevertheless, it is, because I'm full of insecurities in many ways, professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But then I tell myself that maybe it's even good, because if I would be totally self-assured, that probably would be a serious disaster.
Maybe for the people around you, yes. But as we were saying before we started, it really, I think that that little bit of insecurity, or we were talking about stage fright earlier before we went on the show, it's what keeps you on your toes, right, and makes sure that you always strive to be better, or to discover new ways of exploring yourself and your surroundings.
Well, sure, certainly. It's it just sounds sort of a very romantic kind of vision. It basically kind of lacks the torture of being in this constant dialogue with reality and yourself, and like sort of cultivating the opposite of self-assurance. Yeah. So it's because it's really not normal, sort of. So normal people would. Why would we do something like that?
Well, that's actually our second question. Yourself, and coming from a theatrical family, how do you explain to yourself the human impulse to act out stories for one another?
Oh my gosh, that could take a number of hours to sort of this. I don't know. I cannot offer you an explanation.
Well, why is it interesting to you?
Well, I don't know. That's how I function. I don't know. And I don't think it's me in particular. It's everybody. Humans need stories. It's part of our nature. We need it as much as we need oxygen or something like that. We exist in a cloud of stories. Everything around us, our mentality, our everything, ethics, aesthetics, the way we think, science, all of it is shaped and formed and developed through storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. There is no human being without stories sort of flying around.
For
I
sure.
think it's pretty obvious. Yeah. So it's just theater is probably the most the perfect mechanism that allows stories to be told. There are many others, because painting is also a story, even if it doesn't look like anything we really can recognize or know. Abstract painting. It's just the language of storytelling expresses itself through different means. It's asking who the receiving side of sort of to engage a different part of our vocabulary, but it is still stories. Yeah, still stories.
So, as a filmmaker, I would love to ask then, where do you see the difference between theatrical storytelling and filmic or cinematic storytelling?
Well, also sort of a tricky, dangerous territory because, of course, theater is different. And of course, theater is also fundamentally, cinema was born out of theater. So it just employs different means of expression because theater is happening here now, and it's three-dimensional. And probably actually the most important category of what theater is that it happens in time, so there is continuity. So all of those expressive features or qualities of theater are also expressed in time. It's a continuum. It starts, it develops. I don't know. It peaks or the opposite, or because stories, like, I don't know, they're like bridges. But essentially they are, because they connect point A with point B. But stories have architecture,
Mhm.
just like bridges, because in order for me to be able to go from point A and reach the point B, so much is actually happening in between. Just like with bridges, because uh, I don't know, bridges come in a vast variety of sort of engineering solutions. They're different because I don't know, Golden Gate Bridge is over this bay, and so on, and there are rocks on both sides, and some bridges are over very slow and quiet rivers or something like that. Every case needs its own solution. Even more,
Mhm.
like you can analyze Hamlet as some kind of a machine of storytelling that starts here and goes over this span and ends up with everybody dead and Fortinbras is coming. But there is a very serious concrete structure
Yeah.
inside there, built by Shakespeare, of course.
Mhm.
But another layer of complexity is that uh, uh, Hamlet yesterday and Hamlet today are different. They're different. They require different solutions,
Mhm.
different engineering in terms of, if we continue this metaphor of,
The bridge. Yeah.
yeah, because the only real measure of all of this is life, and life is changing,
Mhm.
and lately, like, kind of very fast.
Nina, I want to go back to your question as a consumer of cinema and theater.
Mm.
They're different from me because I always know that with a film, I can buy it, I can rewatch it, which I do. I love to rewatch my favorite films over and over and over. And with cinema, I mean, with theater, it's fugitive. If you're there, just like a live performance of a musician, you're there, it's
And
fugitive. Figuring them together. And it's actually painful for me sometimes when you're in a moment of perfection or revelation, or you're going through something with an actor on a live stage that you've formed a bond with, and you know the moment's going to be gone and you won't be able to hold on to it. It hurts. It's such a beautiful thing. And
that's very
I,
true. Yeah. Also, film is it happened once somewhere, and then it was fixed on a film by a camera. Yeah. Theater is very different. It happens now in front of our eyes, or it doesn't. But nevertheless, it's a live process.
Yeah.
Yes. But I also love to rewatch, like, some films, and it's a very interesting. Like, I relatively recently I watched The Bicycle Thief,
Mhm.
mhm.
and I saw it. Maybe I was like a teenage, like 13, 14 years of age. And first of all, I lived a little bit since the first time. So I was in tears just nonstop. I couldn't stop. It was just such a beauty.
Yeah, it was.
And I kept like, what happened? How did we lose the ability to tell those simple humanistic fundamental stories? The man, his bicycle was stolen. That's
Yeah.
that's the start of the story.
Yeah. Yeah. I think cinema has changed dramatically, obviously. Yeah.
Oh,
No.
yeah, which and that's not to say that that we don't have profound cinema today. We do.
Yeah. It's just very different. I think our
Yeah.
ability I think also our ability to read film and to interpret film and to fill in gaps has dramatically increased, right? I think an earlier audience in the history of filmmaking had to be given a lot more literal information in order to understand what was going on.
Absolutely.
Is there a similar, is there or an equivalent kind of development that's happening in theater that you could that you see?
Uh, Interesting, because I think about it lately somehow. Yeah, that I'm like, am my answer is yes, absolutely. I just don't. I cannot sort of pinpoint, like, I don't know, like take a pin and pin a butterfly to the wall. I don't have a clear answer
Mhm.
for myself.
Yeah.
So, but yes, I think so. Absolutely, there are very serious changes,
Yeah.
shifts. Now, I just don't, you need to invite somebody who's like young, you know.
That's all relative, Danila.
Yeah,
That's-
because I often catch myself on this, I don't know, sensation or almost a fear that, maybe the way I perceive things, maybe the way I react to it, or even purely emotional, is obsolete. It's entirely
I would,
possible.
yeah, I would think no, but it's an interesting question to ask yourself.
It is, but I think the choir needs all the voices and all the ages in order to be complete.
Well, sure, especially because there is nothing I can do about, I'm not 20 anymore,
Yeah.
and will never be. So, I already told myself that whatever happens, let it be.
Yeah.
I'll just keep being whoever I am.
Speaking of being 20, I happen to know that at 20, you were already an accomplished oil painter because I had the privilege of being in your parents' home and sleeping under all those beautiful oil paintings that I still remember. And I too was supposed to be a violinist. So I spent 16 years of my life training with various teachers and all of that. So I don't regret my violin training because the the formal elements of music translated into visual arts when I switched course. And I wonder, do you also use the visual skills that you trained in as a painter?
Uh, oh, it's, yeah, to say yes is not enough, because, I just came back from this exhibit of Franz Hals at the museum in Berlin. And every time I see paintings, especially of this high level, I'm like, oh my God, I wasted my life. What am I doing? But true. No, it's the problem is that theater is an addiction, and but, very often not a healthy one. So it really truly has this kind of a narcotic quality to it, like probably uh, any artist or art form. Many people who are doing it would say, yeah. But theater is also, because it's a uh, it's an art that is done in a group. So
Mhm.
it has this kind of you know it's easier somehow to take the poison when there are many of us.
Mhm.
There is something sort of beautifully addictive about being together in a group of people who are somehow connected, united by a common vision.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I call it collective suffering. Yes,
Yep.
very much the same in film. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but then, yeah, collective suffering. That's right. And then 5 minutes of happiness,
Mhm.
like exuberant, absolute, hysterical joy. Yeah, and then again, back to suffering. Yeah, yeah.
Very true.
I have actually seen more live theater in Russia than I have in the USA. But when I make a comparison, even though I only maybe have seen 10 plays in the USA, the ones, yours and those of others, the stage itself in Russia was much more of an actor in the production. Like in the American plays that I went to, there was a set that was fairly static and fairly traditional, and the actors moved around in it, and the set kind of stayed the way it was. And in your plays and those I've been to at the Alexandrinsky, the set is alive. It changes, it moves, its personality changes, its color changes. Is this your experience of it too? And is there, do I?
Yes. I'm just afraid of those sort of generalizations because, yeah, if you put all those statements of mine in parentheses and just take it with a grain of irony or something. Yeah, but listen, true American theater, in my experience, I would say, it's much more sort of rooted into, maybe it has something to do with this sort of an American Protestant tradition or something, or English Protestant. I don't know, because Russian theater, the way we were growing up and the way we were taught, if you don't reinterpret, you're not doing your job. And when I ended up in America and kept doing what I thought my profession was about, I discovered that in some cases that was misread as some sort of dictatorial tendencies or something that I'm trying to impose on free-spirited Americans, some kind of a Russian absolutism or something. I don't know. It's a words kind of all are betraying often in those situations.
Oh, sure.
Because I also saw wonderful, inventive theater in America.
I need to see more.
So, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So do you think you have done different, or you approach set design differently for your American productions than you would for European or Russian?
No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't give up.
Yeah.
I was stubborn. No, I wouldn't. No, I never got into any serious trouble, sort of. But
You're here with us today, and you seem to be of able body. So
yeah, but I don't know. I feel awkward to categorize those things. I don't know.
yeah. No, I
Because
mean the question is more from your experience. Obviously you're being asked to do the set design because people have seen your previous work and like your work and want to have that for their own production, right? So I would imagine.
sometimes when you work at the university, you're just asked to design just because you are the designer.
Yeah.
So what the situation you are describing is more or less ideal because people choose you for who you are.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wasn't meaning to slander American theater. My point was just that in the very few granted plays that I've seen in the States, the stage was a place where the play happened. And in the Soviet Union, the stage was this evolving creature that helps move the story along.
Yeah, because my teacher was telling me, you don't design scenery, you design worlds.
Mhm.
You don't design scenery. And it's true. I actually, I've been doing it since 75 or something.
Mhm.
And
What one of the worlds, Nina, with first the drawing and then the stage, we have an image.
oh, okay.
Yeah. So we start with this one, right?
With
Yeah.
the sketch for the stage. What are we looking at?
That's a photograph of a model.
Okay.
Yeah. It's Histoire des Soldats by Stravinsky in Long Beach Opera.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know what do we want me to
Well, what are we looking at? Are the figures, are they stand-ins for actors or are they actually
No. Those were those target
Yeah.
practice figures. Yeah, they were part of the set.
Yeah.
People were moving around amongst them.
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't
So
know. It was sort of a very interesting, peculiar production because Stravinsky wrote his opera, and then I believe Kurt Vonnegut
Hmm.
rewrote. He wrote his own libretto.
Mhm.
I just don't quite remember right now, but there are three versions of the same story that were performed in this environment.
Oh, wow. On the same set.
Yeah. And then there was I think it was Wynton Marsalis, if I'm not mistaken. So people who are watching, don't trust me completely. You will need to check it for yourself.
Is
But
there a bird flying in the background?
oh, yeah, there is. Yeah, that's
This here, or you're talking about this here?
yeah.
No.
There is this some sort of weird figure flying. Yeah, that's one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sweet.
By the way, it was Wynton Marsalis who said the same thing you just said. I've had the privilege of working with him, and I'm a huge fan of his classical work.
Mhm.
And because he kind of replaced Maurice Andre for me. And when we were interviewing him in this thing that I shot with Sony Music, he said every time he, had hard time with the trumpet, he said, like, damn, I should have become a pianist. And I mean, this is the man, this is the man who is like the foremost best trumpeter in the world. And yeah. So we had to laugh very hard when he said that. So
Yeah, but that's actually that's a great sort of lesson, I guess,
mhm, yeah.
because I don't know. There is something very fruitful about this sort of if you feel that you are in some dead end or something, then just change the medium.
Yeah.
I don't know, just start playing the piano or start I don't know, if you are an oil painter, start cutting sculptures with an axe or something, or a
Yeah.
chainsaw. I don't know.
All right. So going back to this, I'm assuming this then is the oopsie. I have to click on the right thing.
Yeah,
The actual thingamajig.
that's
Yeah.
the actual thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So you can see the humans, actually, the real humans, not the plywood humans.
Mhm.
Yeah, and the orchestra was on stage.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool. And then what is this here?
That is a painting, actually, an oil one. It's pretty big. I would say it's like 6 feet by 4.5 or something.
Gorgeous.
It's I don't know what to tell you. It was what I know for sure, because people will say like, "Oh, look, he just painted the coronavirus." But swear to God, I did this before the pandemic.
Okay.
So maybe it's some kind of a vision. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of the series of like a bunch of those
Mhm.
circular abstractions.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then we
You,
have my personal favorite, if we're ready to move on to that, which
okay.
is this one here.
Uh yeah. Everybody somehow likes it. Well, I lived in Chicago, and we went to uh, a concert at the symphony, and they were playing Carmina Burana.
My favorite. That's why I love it. Okay.
Yeah, Karl Orff, and there is a chorus.
Of
And
course. Yeah.
so this chorus of kids went on stage, and they were dressed in this bright red jackets. Uh, and so I went home and started painting, literally, like after the concert. So it
Right.
was strange. But that's another difference between theater and painting, because in this particular case, if I interpret it correctly, it was simply about some kind of a strong impression,
Mhm.
emotion. I just felt something, uh, and if you try, I guess I could like start explaining what I think it could mean, blah blah blah. I don't have any desire to do that. But in theater, you need to know what you mean by what you do on stage.
Mhm.
So it's an interpretive art, and it has a lot to do with sort of literature,
Yeah.
stories, or and it sort of it has deep conceptual connections to between what it's about and how it's done.
Mhm.
You
It's
once
not
told
it's
me
not
that,
enough just to read directions for the play, and because it says like the window in the center, one door on the left, a bigger door on the right. That's not enough for
Yeah.
creating an environment. Yeah. Yes, Millis.
mm, once you told me that the stories that interest you enough to go into a production are ones where humans are in a vice, that you're interested in what happens to humans under pressure. Can you say more about that?
Sure, but that's like primitive, simple. I mean, what is drama? Drama is a contradiction. It's a collision of interest. There is no drama. Nobody would, it just becomes meaningless and boring because nothing happens if you don't have a clash.
Mhm.
So drama is constructed out of um, contradictions. So if you want to sort of tame the dramatic piece, you need to cultivate the contradiction. You need to understand what it is exactly about and what is colliding. It's not just, oh, it's a collision. It's a collision of what kind of collision? Because there are myriads of collisions and they're all different.
Mhm.
By the way, if we're really serious about those things. Because but there is, I used to tell that to my students when they were still listening to me. um, there is this word which everybody knows. um, it's metaphor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody knows. Oh, metaphor, of course, but what the hell is it?
Mhm.
And uh, very often, well, people would say, yeah, it's some sort of something that explains or uh, somehow widens the understanding of something else. Mama, our daughter lives in Athens, Greece nowadays with her 3 children. So I in the last 3 years, I often visited Greece, and there, I walk down the street and there is a truck driving by, a red truck, and it says metaphor on it.
Home delivery of metaphors.
Well, it is, metaphor is a transporter.
Uh-huh.
It is something that takes something from somewhere and moves it to a different place.
Like your
Huh?
like your bridges.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a metaphor, of course, but it's not because I'm such a metaphorical guy or something, uh, but it's a universal language. It has properties which are absolutely essential to the way we transport meaning. In fact, we all are in the business of transporting meaning.
We are.
Yeah, of course.
So would we also transform? How would you fit that into the equation?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all, it's really truly the most democratic, the most anti-totalitarian, anti-dictatorial mechanism invented by humans. It's much better than politics,
Hmm.
much freer. So, and it's the only one that is trustworthy. It will not betray you.
No.
Because it's
If
right then and there.
if
Yeah.
you are really sort of in it, if you really understand what's going on. So it's a very serious business. It's about transportation of meaning. It's how we make sense out of our lives and the world we live in.
Mhm.
Poetry is what uh, uh, attaches meaning to this meaningless world of ours. Crazy. And that was, it's not like Danila discovered it, for God's sakes. It was, I just picked it up, actually. I was lucky to, I was given this. I was told. And it all had, we started with conflict and things conflictual. Well, that's in the center of the metaphoric mechanism, because there are other forms of transportation of meaning. They're more mild. Like, I don't know, nothing comes to mind. it's I don't know, there are all kinds of because I don't know, similar. This is like that. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
it's called similar. It's also Greeks gave
Mhm.
gave it the formula.
Mhm.
And there is already uh, this sort of equation of similarity is at the center of this. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you compare certain quality, they're not the same, but they are similar. And that's one of the essential mechanisms of transportation of meaning, because we say, I don't know, her face is like a moon.
Right.
Well, okay. Well, we all have seen a moon. So this woman is probably beautiful, and she's radiant, and she is kind of pale, light skinned or something. I don't know. You compare qualities.
Yeah.
Well, and you compare to what you know, right? And that is where the transport happens to a new territory, because you need to refer back to something that you can relate to.
Absolutely. But it's just, we can go like really far with this stuff. But what's important is that it's a very critically important mechanism in transportation of meaning. Uh, which, as we already mentioned, it takes a variety of forms and shapes and mechanisms of delivery. Metaphor doesn't say like; it says it's a much more difficult, insisting kind of form of comparison. It simply says she is a moon. She's not like a moon. She is a moon. It's not. It doesn't leave you any space for. It is. She is. She's so pale, so beautiful, so glowing from inside. She's my moon,
Mm.
and that's a metaphor.
When you talk about it being a powerful way to transport meaning, maybe the only powerful way to transport meaning, I'm reminded of the fact that dictators first want to immediately take control of the arts and decide.
Absolutely, yeah, you are absolutely right. It's actually exactly the opposite of poetic and metaphoric way of transportation. The thing is that they don't transport any meaning. They seal it. They they say that it belongs to them, and then they impose it on everybody's forehead. It's called propaganda.
Yeah.
It doesn't leave any space for maybe yes, maybe not. That's not what they like, and it's not even they. There are dictators as personalities, but there are also systems that dictate. In fact, I'm afraid that probably every system resorts to form of dictate, and you cannot totally get rid of it because
No.
there are
It's
certain instances in reality where you cannot leave space for like poetic wobbling, like maybe, and giving freedom of to everybody, because it's certain at certain point you just need to to make absolutely sure that you don't turn left at this intersection, because you will get killed, and that would not be the worst situation. You will kill other people. So here is a sign that way. You know, it's a dictatorial form of imposing meaning on the viewer. Yeah. Anyways,
I heard a speaker say once that you can measure the health of a society by the bandwidth of opinions and artistic expression that they're comfortable living with.
absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
What are you working on these days?
What am I what?
Working on?
Ah. You actually mentioned in the list of my whatever professional applications or something. Yeah, I well, in short, I started writing. So yeah, I call whatever I write, I call that plays, for the lack of better term. I'm not quite sure if those are plays. but they are, they are sort of events or chains of events, and they're happening in some sort of a theatrical form, I guess, because they start, they develop, there are characters, there are events, and then a resolution. Yeah, and so I started writing plays, and first I couldn't start. I don't know, Melissa, if it happens to you, but often if when I need to start something and I have something new, some new challenge, I disaster. I I
Well, the gestation period is longer with new stuff.
Well, yeah, that's a very logical no, but I'm I don't know, maybe it didn't doesn't happen to you, but I'm like in a state of total impotence, and I think like, oh my God, I will never be creative again. I will never do anything, and my parents, you know, will the memory of me will be betrayed. It's so anyways, it's just a disaster.
I'm sorry for laughing, but it
No,
vaguely
you're
sounds
absolutely right,
familiar.
because I laugh myself, especially because so far every time I go into this ridiculous crisis, so I would be like completely stuck. I would come up with some kind of a thing that I need to do, and then I would rush to an art store and buy myself like beautiful paintings and canvases and an easel and this and that, and spend like way more money that was planned. Anyway, so and then I come home, I put this new canvas on the easel, and I sit in front of it, and I don't know what to do, and I hate myself. I don't know. And then like 3 or 4 months pass like that,
Mhm.
and then one day, for inexplicable reason, somehow something happens, and it just bursts, and so it's just crazy. Uh, Somebody's sending me messages. Anyway, so yeah, and then the first canvas goes, the second one, and then 3 months later, I cannot stop.
Mhm.
Yes.
I would literally, I wake up, I drink my coffee, and I r- jump into the studio and start like. So the same happened with plays,
Yeah.
or whatever the term is.
Mhm.
So I started 2 years ago. Yeah, a little bit more, maybe 2.5. No, more, 3,
Mhm.
because it was before the war started.
Yeah.
So now I just finished number 5.
Oh, fantastic.
Play or canvas?
Play.
Play. Play.
Yes, play. And I Melissa, I can send you one because I translated it into English.
I would love that. Please do.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
What about Nina?
Okay. I will,
Yes, please. Yes,
I'm,
please.
I'm writing it down.
Good.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. So, since we're somehow apparently are getting to the end of our show here, which went way too
Really?
fast.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
I know. Went wait. Well, we still have a couple of questions, but I just kind of want to set the stage,
Okay.
so we can all prepare ourselves for the end of our live show. We sort of have the three questions at the end that we like asking, sort of as a buttoning it all up in a nice little tight bow, because we do want to have that bridge that leads from A to Z. So the question would be, in a perfect world, what production would you love to design, produce, or direct?
Oh, that's it's not a very noble, glamorous. I would start with my first play and just go second, third.
Perfect.
Yeah, really.
Yep.
I used to have my theater company, and now I don't.
Yeah.
So I'm just writing all of this in some sort of a strange hope that someday I'll just go back in and
Yeah.
restart the whole shebang.
Well, inshallah, that's all I can say.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, what advice would you give to an emerging emerging theater artist?
Oh, that's also kind of easy,
Oh, good.
because I tell that to myself. Um, and it's simple. Don't be afraid of anything. Don't be afraid. And it's unnatural to be fearless. It's sort of some kind of a form of a sickness. So it's this peculiar, weird balance, because you need to be afraid, but you don't. You take all of this into consideration, somehow process it, but turn it into fuel. Don't be afraid. Don't waste time. Don't tell yourself, "Oh, I'm not ready." Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
A man that I bought gold from in New York once said something beautiful to me that maybe he got somewhere else. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's acting wisely in the presence of fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
Was that gold for a painting?
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's just like shopping for gold.
yeah, it's
Long story.
it's actually, because I grew up in a country where older generation went through war.
Yeah.
And
St. Petersburg, Leningrad.
yes, and that's why it's especially horrifying what's going on right now, because it's peace was everywhere. We grew up indoctrinated into this. Peace is the most valuable thing. Anyway, so but this it's one of the qualities of soldiers who went through war and survived. It's not about not having fear. It's about knowing how to deal with it and act.
Yeah. Very true. Which brings us to our last question. Melissa, do you want to do the honors?
Please tell us about up to 3 of your favorite works of art that you've chosen to live with. What's in your home or your office, whatever space is precious to you.
Oh. Well, there are actually, because we moved into this apartment in Berlin just half a year ago, and for a while, because I had an exhibit of my paintings in Paris, in France, and then because we were like crossing the ocean and going to Russia and going back here and there, and so those paintings were just sitting at my friend's apartment, and so it's kind of a banal answer, but it just happened that I have my own paintings in here. So I don't know.
Including the choir, right?
including the Carmina Burana. Yeah.
Yeah, which now that I know it's Carmina Burana, I love it even more.
It's Carmina Burana. Yeah. Which is, Karl Orff was a German composer.
It's one of my favorite pieces.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's my answer, I guess. But I would love.
I love how you teed it up.
I would, if I could.
Yeah.
I don't know. I went today to see Franz Hals, and I would like a small, little, tiny. That would make me happy. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Very good. Well, this was a wonderful conversation, and I'm kind of sad we're done. But Melissa and I, we don't know what season 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 look like. Maybe we'll have repeat guests. Yeah.
Why not? If you will ever have this impulse, you know where to find me.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with us and for sharing so generously.
And Nina, thank you for being our lovely host.
Yes, thank you, Nina.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Digitally, it's all so easy. I don't have to clean up the dishes after, although I kind of wish I did. And for those of you who are watching this, be it that you're watching it live or the replay, thank you so much for spending your time with us as well. And you can always leave more questions or comments below this stream or this video. And we'll be back in a month with another fabulous guest. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.